Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for yet again for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as always. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for more of the continuation of the forms of the Mega Man Marathon 2. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mega Man and Bass, Challenger from the future, from the Bandai WonderSwan. So, last time we did manage able to take on the forms of those 4 Robot Masters, including the Great Devil on the intro stage, and that was actually alright, despite the fact that we actually did come across into a few death situations here and there, but regardless of such though, I don't care. So today, for this video, it's the fact that we're about to be continuing things on for this point, and because of this though, we are now moving on to not 1, but 2 of those robots in all-in-one Robot Masters themselves. So, and yeah, let's get this thing to it, shall we? So, yeah, let me grab my controller quickly, and hopefully we're about to be able to get started with the next level. But before we do with all that stuff though, oh look, it's Proto Man right here. So I think what Proto Man is going to tell us something is the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking, it's just the fact that while Mega Man is having a conversation with Proto Man, that he did say about the fact that it looks like a shadow version of Mega Man. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much obvious, and it's up to us to able to make our way there to the Shadow Mega Man, or Shadow Rockman, that's what it's known in Japan. So in this case though, before we take on the forms of Shadow Mega Man, or Shadow Rockman, that's what it's known, we need to get onto the forms of, I would classify for saying, the next 2 stages. So of course, the first stage we're going to be hit onto for today, that's what appears to be Clockmen. So this means about the fact that we're actually going to be fighting against with those 2 Clockman, all in one particular Robot Master combined. Well, I'm not exactly sure if I was able to try to explain this properly, but that's only mainly because it's been about a few hours since I actually did manage to last touch upon this game. So either way though, it knows what it is for the most part. So anyway, so let's go and continue here, and of course we still need to able to just slide and also try to able to actually hit as many of those enemies as we possibly could, although most of the time though, sometimes it always gets me a little bit cornered off for the sake of the forms of certain enemy encounters sometimes, but regardless of such though, I gonna have to able to actually just, although luckily there's a health pickup right down there, so at the very least I can able to actually use this particular, no wait, I think it was this weapon, is it? Nah, it doesn't look like it, because it looks like it has to be by the forms of, well, you know what I mean with the forms of their aircon weapons. So, in this case though, yeah, the flame will not do a thing, so in this case though, let's go and use the BW anyway, so that way we could able to get that health pickup, and hopefully we can able to actually continue our progress for the sake of time. So, yeah, you get the idea. So, yeah, today's day is, of course, the 18th of August today, in this case in 2022 today. So, relatively speaking, it's the fact that, well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that, I was trying to able to mention something like, you know, with new stuff has just recently did manage to happen for the sake of the forms of the entirety of this month so far, but I think I should probably save that particular conversation until whenever we get to Bass's playthrough, because, well, suffice to say that, relatively speaking, that we're pretty much almost nearly at the end, for the sake of the forms of Mega Man's playthrough of this game, so, but I will say, I'm having an easier time with Mega Man's playthrough so far, unlike the forms of how it does in a regular Mega Man and Bass game on the Game Boy Advance, because obviously with level design on the original Mega Man and Bass doesn't suit well for Mega Man, because obviously Bass is the actual better pick for the sake of the forms of, you know, trying to deal with the forms of the toughest level design I've ever seen in a Mega Man game. Although I'm pretty sure that Buttercup has already mentioned about this already, so yeah, you probably expected how this is going, so oh jeez, this bit does remind me of the forms of Dustman stage for some reason, except now there's some spikes above us, so yeah, we have to be very cautious not able to get touched by the forms of the actual spike ceiling, although mind you, I think that particular segment also reminds me of the forms of that particular fight against with Dr. Wily for the sake of the forms of Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy, except you know, the spike ceiling is now moving up and down as opposed to like stay up on the first form, and then it goes even much more lower when it gets to the point until you get to the second form. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how, I'm pretty sure that Mighty Armadillo has already mentioned about this ever since in Mega Man 5, Game Boy version of that Let's Play, so, but I digress. So anyways, let's go ahead and take on this particular mini-fight here, so, hopefully it should be down until whenever we're able to use not only the Mega Buster, but also the charged up Mega Buster, even though sometimes it might take forever to able to actually kill certain mini-fights every once in a while. But hey, at least we did manage to kill him nonetheless, so nicely done. So anyways, let's go ahead and continue things on here. So either way though, to be expected, it's all at the end of the game starts getting pretty difficult every once in a while. But hopefully though, we'll try to able to actually get grips with it though. And luckily for me, I've managed to able to pick up not only the extra life, but also the health pickup as well. So kudos to you. Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, as far as I'm aware, that this game is quite generous sometimes when it comes to not only health pickups, but also extra lives sometimes. So, oh, this is the actual fun part, is the fact that, well, specifically in this section right here, that just like in the forms of how it does it on Gravity Man stage from Mega Man 5 for the NES, that basically does the fact that if you stumble across the forms of the actual up arrows or down arrows, then basically if you go onto the up arrows, it actually changes the gravity, whilst in the forms of if you go onto the down bit on the down arrow, basically you're going back onto the forms of the normal gravity. So, which either way though, it does remind me of Gravity Man stage sometimes, but either way though, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because I think that we're pretty much almost nearly at the end of this level. It's just the fact that, well, sometimes this stage can be a bit lengthy at times. Oh, there's another extra life, so I think I might as well go for that. So, anyways, let's go and use the BW weapon. So in this case though, we can able to just bust out this little door, and we should able to get ourselves another extra life. So, I think we've almost at the forms of the maximum amount of extra lives as far as we can get. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how this is going. I should probably also mention about this also is the fact that much like the forms of in Mega Man 8, that basically it shows us the actual life icon, whilst compared to other games, that the only time you can only see the extra lives icon is the fact that with the forms of trying to pause the game and just, well, you know what I'm saying. So, yeah, by the way, we actually stumbled across with the forms of those new types of obstacles, such as, for instance, we stumbled across those springs, and basically you have to do the ridiculous amount of timing in order to able to actually decide to bounce a bit higher, and then that way you can able to make your way for the sake of those specific segments worth knowing for. Alright, so here's the forms of Clockman, and basically their weakness is either Barrier Wind, and I think that's about it. Barrier Wind for Mega Man's case, and these guys are a piece of cake. Even especially noticeable that sometimes I always get hit most of the time, but regardless of such though, that's pretty much as far as I can usually think about it. And I believe this is actually the final weapon we can get. So that's what it appears to be by the forms of Time Switch, which this allows you to able to actually manage to let those enemies freeze in place, and that way you can able to actually just to not only dodge projectiles, but also, you know, dodge enemies as well. So yeah, that's the Clockman, and whoa, what is up with this guy? So, apparently though, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but either way though, we're about to be able to get into the next stage. Although, I was expecting if I was trying to able to go back into Dr. Light's lab and able to buy something there, but I have no words to think about it. So we have Compass Man. Okay, a little bit weird for the sake of the forms of that Robot Master as far as this is concerned. Now of course, just like in any other Robot Master's levels, except Air Command stage, that, you know, like I said, everything else is gonna be horizontal the whole time. So, at the very least, I don't have to worry about the forms of this very awkward, recording setup, unlike the forms of how it does it on Klonoa Moonlight Museum, that most of the time, if we come across into the forms of other levels, such as the, for instance, that, you know, with the horizontal, levels to vertical precision levels, then obviously the actual recording setup is a pain. But regardless of such though, I honestly don't mind about it too much, and also that certain controls can be, changed up at points, so... But yeah, you get the suggestion for this point, so... Alright, so I think, fundamentally speaking, that, like I said before, we know with the forms of that, oh jeez, that was close. I almost, got myself a knockback and fall straight into the bottomless pit down below. But thankfully, we didn't actually able to stumble across that, issue, so... Anyway, so yeah, with the time switch, that will be the final Robot Master's weapon, because as far as I'm aware, if we managed able to take down Compass Man, I believe if we managed able to defeat him, I think that he might be the only one that does not give us any weapons at all. So, relatively speaking, for the sake of this installment of the Mega Man classic games up to that point, this is the only emphasis about the fact that you get less weapons compared to the forms of how it does in a traditional style of classic Mega Man. Like, for example, with the forms of in Mega Man 1 for the NES, that basically though is the fact that you do have 6 weapons, well 7 if you want to count the forms of the Magnet Bean, if you find it on the forms of the Legman stage, if you find the Gutsman's weapon, so, and also with the forms of the rest of the series, we have 8 weapons to your disposal, so with few additional items such as item 1, 2, and 3 for Mega Man 2, rush items from Mega Man 3 and onwards, and especially noticeable with the forms of, well, you know what I mean. So, but of course we're still able to actually access to Rush Coil, like I said, which function the same thing as the forms of how it does in the previous games. So at the very least you might able to actually find certain levels a bit easier to deal with. So, well, as long as you're able to actually get the ridiculous amount of bolts you can get. So, but I digress. And also on top of all that stuff though is the fact that unfortunately though there's no Rush Jet to be found, mainly because of how the fact that, well, I honestly have no idea why they took out Rush Jets from the start, but oh well, no big deal. But at the very least we actually got a maximum amount of lives we can get, so at this point in time is the fact that I think we should be okay for the most part for you know, just trying to able to progress throughout the whole game. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much self-explanatory right here. So, and I think, fundamentally speaking, is the fact that, well, we've only got 2 stages left, because I'm not kidding, that this game is going to be really, really short, so much shorter than the forms of how it does it on Mega Man and Base, for, not only for the Super Famicom, but also for the Game Boy Advance as well. So, yeah, it feels like everything else should be a little bit more comfortable as far as this is concerned. So, yeah, I found it's quite fascinating. So, anyways, let's go ahead and continue things on here. Keep on climbing through ladders and all that stuff though. Seriously, what's up with those abundance of ladders? Well, I get it because of the forms of trying to, you know, keep on climbing and all that stuff though. But hey, at least that stuffing is usually as far as I can usually try to consider it. So, screw it. I was gonna take the invincibility frames and then just call it a day, and then hopefully we shouldn't have that much issues with this. So, oh Jesus Christ. Alright, so there's gonna be some conveyor belts there. So either way though, we can just, oh jeez, that was close. Alright. Alright, so I think we should be almost nearly at the end, I guess. I mean, it's just that, well, we've still got some obstacles to worry about, including certain enemy encounters that we still need to worry about, and hopefully it won't give me that much trouble. So there we go, we made it straight to the end, and of course we're going to be taking on the forms of Compass Man. So, unfortunately though, I don't think I can probably deal with him with a little amount of health, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take another life away, and then just, well, start the boss fight as normal with my you know, full health, and hopefully we can able to take him on for reals. So, now I believe his weakness was pretty much, Barrier Wind. So, yeah, kind of like the forms of how it does it on any other Robot Master's weakness. So, yeah, I think, to me though, that Barrier Wind might actually be the most effective weapon in the game in my opinion. I have no idea why that is though, but either way though, let's just go ahead and, keep running into him, although most of the time though that he loves to defend himself by connecting his body parts together, and that's all he really does. It's just the fact that he can able to take his body into the skies above, and then he managed to use the legs to walk about, and then basically it's up to us to able to, well, try to able to deal the amount of damage to him. So yeah, for that particular attack right there, basically that's all it does whenever you try to able to utilize the dash attack. So, and yeah, like I said, no weapon gets for the sake of the forms of if you trying to able to, you know, trying to kill him. So there it goes. And after that though, we hit straight into the forms of the final stage in the game. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is the final stage we're going to be entering into. So yeah, before we deal with all that stuff though, let me double check on the forms of let's just say the Dr. Light's lab and purchase ourselves the well, let's just say by the forms of the Shock Guard, so that way it actually protects us from spikes from once, by the way. Not every time though, but just once, so anyway, now we've met up with the forms of Shadow Rockman, so because of this though, or Rockman Shadow as what's known here, and yeah, remember that scene right there? That's actually a flashback from the likes of the forms of Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. So this meaning that it's kind of the equivalent to Quaint from the likes of the Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. So yeah, that's quite fascinating at the same time as well. Because mind you, without the forms of that familiar sprite, except the fact that the actual model itself looks exactly like Mega Man, but regardless of such though, let's go ahead and deal with this. Rockman Shadow, or just simply calls it Mega Man Shadow, so... Okay, if you did not know already, this is my jump cut for the sake of the forms of this particular level. Especially noticeable, this is my second attempt to able to actually do this stage, because for the love of God, there was that one part that just really irritates me, and that's what it appears to be later on. But for the most part, everything else is a cakewalk for the most part, until whenever we're able to come across into that very annoying segment where you can't afford able to be too slow or be patient, because you have to be extremely fast, and that will have to be by the forms of this part. And because of this though, I actually kind of think about it, that I have no idea what's up with this music right there. Is it kind of feels a bit similar to the forms of how it does it in Mega Man and Bass, the original game? But anyways, basically, it's the fact that you can't afford able to slow down, because if you fall off, you have to start all over at the beginning of the level again. So, yeah, but luckily, I've managed able to done it on the first try, so at the very least, I've finally managed able to win past for that godforsaken section. And plus, because of that though, I keep on losing a lot of lives on my first attempt on that level, because, well, relatively speaking, I'm just gonna have to able to reset my game, and then try to able to actually start all over again, and hopefully with a better run. Well, thankfully though, unlike the forms of how it does it on other games, for instance, that with the forms of let's just say certain 3D Mario games, that normally your lives just reset, whilst in here though, you can able to keep your lives to your disposal, so at the very least that's a good thing. So, those little like vampire bats just managed to able to get on my nerves at points. But anyway though, let's just go ahead and get ourselves our extra life back, and hopefully we would be able to just slide through it, so we can at very least we can able to actually do just that. Oh, and by the way, with our weapons that we actually use so many times throughout the majority of the forms of Compass Man, basically though, if you managed able to reset the game and able to select your file, basically your weapons is being fully refilled already. So yeah, at the very least that's actually a useful hint, by the way, because otherwise, unlike the forms of how it does it on Mega Man and Bass, the original game, I'm pretty sure that your weapons will be still depleted if you manage to able to like, well, it's hard to explain because it's been, you know, 4 years ago since I actually last played Mega Man and Bass on the Game Boy Advance, because, like I said, of all the actual classic Mega Man games, that is by far my least favorite games in the entire series. Most notably because of its difficulty, and also on according to the forms of certain reviews out there, that basically that King Fortress Stage 2 is the hellish stage, because obviously not only because it's long, but also we have to deal with 4 bosses on that particular stage, all in one level. So in this case though, we have the forms of that stupid tank, and also with the aircraft thing that literally is by far the hardest boss in the entire game, and also King with the forms of the actual tank upgrade, and it's not that fun to go through. Well, thankfully though, in this level, in this case though, we only have to do with 2 bosses. At the very least, that's that. And also what's very weird is the fact that in any other Mega Man game, that normally Dr. Wily was actually the actual main threat, whilst in this game in particular, was actually by the forms of Quaint, or in some cases Rockman Shadow is the only major threat this time. Although technically Dr. Wily was mentioned during the course of the intro cutscene, but aside from that, he doesn't appear at all. So, well, despite the fact that he does manage to able to mention. So, yeah, we don't need to worry about the forms of Dr. Wily for about, so many times. So, well, at least it wasn't until when, you know, in the next few days, that, when Ray the Flying Squirrel were able to actually get onto the forms of the next Mega Man game for this marathon, which is, of course, Mega Man for the Sega Game Gear. But, either way, though, we'll have to wait and find out until at some point. I have to admit though, that Skull Robots can sometimes take forever to kill, because most of the time though, he just loves to able to toss those little bones as projectiles. But regardless of such though, we did manage to finish him off anyway, so anyways, let's go ahead and continue things on here. So either way though, thankfully though, the actual level itself wasn't nearly as the forms of annoying as the forms of How It Does It on King Fortress levels, because, you know, like I said, with the forms of King Fortress Stage 2 is by far the frustrating level in the whole game. And on top of all that stuff though, thankfully the final 3 levels was nowhere near as long as the forms of How It Does It on King Fortress levels, and son of a biscuit. But that's okay though, because we got a checkpoint right there, so at the very least we should be okay, so... But it's just how it usually happens sometimes, but... Oh well, no big deal, but at the very least we can able to accept that. So, again, there's not much else we can talk about, I'm afraid. Well, apart from the fact that, well, don't worry, as soon as we're able to actually get into, Base's playthrough of the forms of Mega Man and Base Challenger from the future, that I can able to actually discuss upon the forms of, some interesting news and updates for the sake of the forms of this entire month of August, but either way though, it's just I need to focus, that's all, so... Alright, so let's climb up the ladder, and quite frankly, that basically climb onto ladders is actually a bit faster than the forms of How It Does It on most of the time for the likes of Mega Man 8. That, well, as long as you would need to able to buy an upgrade if you decide able to climb the ladders faster, or especially noticeable with Mega Man and Base for the Super Nintendo and Game Boy Advance versions. But either way though, enough about that jibby jabber. Let's go ahead and grab another screw bolt, so that way we can able to actually, although it is kind of pointless, although if you somehow manage able to beat the game once or something like that, at the very least you can still able to actually just, well, it might be hard to explain, because either way though, that, well, I just need to focus, that's all. Alright, so it's just the fact that we still need to able to just take down these little scissors-like enemies and stuff like that, and climb onto that ladder to not only try to take down there's a lot of goop on the ceiling, but also try to take on new forms of those. Is it like a robot knights or something like that? But either way though, let's just go ahead and just use the Mega Buster and just try to kill that enemy right there. Well, sometimes it takes forever to kill sometimes. But before we continue, grab the health pickup, just in case I don't want to able to get screwed over again. And, oh jeez, okay, there we go. Come on, come here. Okay, I think that'll do it, that'll does it. Oh boy, how on earth do I supposed to able to avoid that enemy? Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because I'll just take a hit, and we should able to continue things on here. Oh jeez, there are so many javelin-like enemies like these, even though it kind of reminds me of the forms of Hammer Joe from the likes of the forms of in Mega Man 3, except the fact that it doesn't toss the actual the hammer throw object, so instead it kind of feels like equivalent to, well, I don't know about you, but anyway. So here's the final boss in Mega Man and Base Challenger from the future. I'm not kidding, that's the final boss of the whole entire game, which is simply Rockman Shadow, and basically his weakness might be actually be, once again, Barrier Wind. So yeah, I can't even believe that any other bosses are entirely weak to Barrier Wind. Like, I have no idea about what this is though. I'm guessing it's more likely like the best weapon in the whole entire game. Like, I have no idea. So anyways, he's divided into a few segments, like for instance that, well, the first phase is pretty easy, and the second phase is easy, and the third phase is way easier with the with the Barrier Wind. So yeah, how easy the final boss was it with that particular weapon in mind. So anyways though, after killing him, Rockman Shadow, I'm presuming he somehow managed to able to almost sacrifice. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. So yeah, kind of a lackluster final boss, I will must say, because I was expecting they were able to have, like, the second phase or something like that, but regardless of such though, or the second form rather, But regardless of anything else though, it's just the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I'm pretty sure Rockman Shadow, he's about to die, so in this case though, we can able to actually expect what this is going, despite, you know, everything else is in Japanese and all that stuff though, so I can't really comment on it too much. But yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. Although, can I think about it, this will be the last time we're going to be seeing Rockman Shadow or Quaint from Mega Man 2 until you're able to actually realize that it actually comes with DLC from the likes of Mega Man 10. So I guess that's like a pretty cool comeback. So anyways though, I think, depending on what characters you'd be using, either Mega Man or Bass, I'm pretty sure the actual ending is pretty much exactly the same. Well, I don't think there's any massive ending differences there, but either way though, it looks like that Rockman Shadow is now in heaven, and basically that's pretty much the game. So, despite how short it is, but regardless of such though, it only lasts for about, I would say for about 2 parts for the likes of the Mega Man's playthrough, but, well, that doesn't end off here, because, well, I suffice to say that, well, the credits is actually rolling, of course. So, speaking of roll, there she is right here. So, yeah, I think suffice to say is the fact that we'll pretty much get out the endings off this point right here, because I know for the fact that it is really short. So, with that being said though, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mega Man and Bass, Georgia from the future. That is the fact that we'll go ahead and get things started with the forms of the Bass's playthrough of the whole entire game. So, I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.